Good evening, everyone, and welcome. This is Twist Gaming, where you get to play board games with us. Coming to you live here from Gen Con 2018, bringing you board game coverage all week long. As usual, I'm Matt, and right now I'm joined with Daryl from Splattered Games. How you doing today, Daryl?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. This is super cool.
Absolutely. So, Daryl, first and foremost, you excited for Gen Con?
Of course, I'm excited for Gen Con. This is my 16th year, I think, I've been coming. So
A few times before then.
I've been here a couple times,
Yeah.
right? So, but this is my first time here with a game, so that's kind of taking it to another level, I guess.
Gotcha. Very cool. So, tell me a little bit about Splattered Games, if you can.
Sure. I am an illustrator and designer, and I have been my whole life. For the last 20 years, I've been working as a designer, mostly sort of in the corporate setting, things like that. But I've always had illustration, particularly with a comic book slant, at heart. And when I was in high school, I created the little splattered ink icon. I thought that was going to be my future. It was on your preview. So when I came back to illustration and came back to gaming, I revived the little splat face. So that's kind of the birth of Splattered Ink, at least as far as the name goes. So
Very cool.
yeah.
So, what game have you brought to show off to us today?
This is Dobbers, Quest for the Key, and it is a deck building RPG quest style game. It really is kind of combining a lot of elements that I haven't yet seen in the board game and the deck building genre. So I'm excited to get to do that. It combines some qualities that I wanted to see. So that's where it came from. And all the illustrations and all the characters and kind of the backstory are inspired by a comic book I wrote almost 20 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's got to be really cool though, taking something that you did in comic
Yeah.
book format there,
Yeah,
and then just
we actually have it.
that's awesome. And just transitioning it to a board game. Can you talk about some of the challenges that you had when trying to take one media like that and transferring it to something, very different?
Yeah, so the challenge for me, I think, was always trying to stay true to the story without causing the story to dictate the outcome of the game.
Okay.
So you've got an interesting balance there where you want the game's enjoyment to come from the players. So you're turning over control to them, where when you're writing something, you're in complete control. So it was an interesting, I guess, exercise to try to create these sort of cinematic moments that are independent and can stand on their own.
Gotcha. So,
Yeah.
do you have to be familiar with the Dobbers comic book in order to have an appreciation for the game, or can you go in blind and still pick up on the universe of it?
Yeah, you don't need the comic book at all. For the Kickstarter, there is a tier that I'm going to do a reprint of the book, but it's definitely not necessary. And the story, there's a little blurb in the rules that kind of get you up to speed, but it's very loose and just kind of, like I said, get you started.
Very cool. So, on Kickstarter right now with the game, correct?
It is on Kickstarter right now.
How much longer do we have before we lose our opportunity to get in early?
You have about 3 weeks, a little over 3 weeks. It ends on the 24th, which is a Friday.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, back in track a little bit, you said that you are the designer of this game, designer and illustrator of this game, correct?
Correct.
I understand that you had a little bit of help
I
in
did.
game design.
I did. My son is 11 years old, and he helped a lot with filling in some of those details where I needed ideas or I needed names or even some of the weapons, like this weapon here. He kind of inspired, and there's been a lot of that throughout the game. So it was really a pleasure to get to do that with him.
That's got to be really awesome. So let's jump into it here. Let's talk a little bit about how this game functions. I know you said it's a RPG-ish deck builder.
Yeah.
But what really differentiates it from some of the other games that are in the industry right now?
Sure. The big calling card of this game is that your opponents build the challenges for you as you move along the board. So depending on who's in the lead will often dictate who gets the most attention. And you'll have a little bit of everyone sort of gravitates towards on kind of teaming up against whoever's in the lead to slow them down so everyone can catch up. And that idea of building those obstacles comes into play a lot in the typical mechanics of deck building because you are constantly having the tension of using your resources to improve your deck, like in most deck builders.
Right.
But now you also have to divide your resources to put those obstacles out. So there's times where you really are stuck with that challenge. Do I want to buy that cool weapon, or so and so's getting ahead? I really need to put some in front of them.
So it's kind of a resource management in that aspect of where you either are improving yourself or you're trying to make it harder for your opponent if maybe they got a little bit ahead of you.
Right. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep. So, and with the way that the equipment works, you also have kind of a abstract hand management thing going on too, where each character, when they're in play, or your hero that you have in play, can have a weapon, item, and armor on them. And
so if you give me one of those, I'll show it off up close in our camera over here. So, that is glary right now. There we go.
There you go.
So, give me a rundown of what we're looking at here on the cards in terms of iconography and some of the statistics on it.
Okay, yeah. So this is the favored weapon, so that's why I pulled it out to make sure everyone got to see it. This is Flame. It's definitely coming from the original comic book, and the top left-hand corner is the resource cost. I will also mention that the comic book did come out in 2001, which precedes the Fallout games, and I was using bottle caps for the resources then. Yeah, so that one costs 9 to purchase. It's one that's most difficult to acquire. And then it has the one red action point. So that is a universal action point.
Okay.
That when it's in play, equipped on your hero, you can use that resource anytime during your turn, either for travel or for challenges. So it's that universal. And then the one below it, the challenge bonus, can only be used for challenges. So that's when you face something on the board where they've built location and creature, and maybe that a creature even has equipment. So you can only use that towards that. So there's this, throughout the game, you're basically dividing these resources towards travel and towards challenges. And then, like I said, the red is the universal, so you can use it for either one.
Gotcha.
And that's essentially it. And you've got the weapon icon, of course, which you can only have one weapon, one item, and one armor in play.
So this is a weapon. Do you have an example of some of the, you said an item and an armor, or the other two?
Yeah, so this is an item. And I had an armor sitting here.
I like that the yellow is green screening on the center of the torch. I promise it's not a see-through card. You know?
It's not a see-through card. And
so the torch here gives you +1 travel bonus, +1 challenge bonus, and destroy challenge bonus +2. That's a little different. What's that mean there?
Okay, so I like to I don't know, superimpose story upon the cards, even though it's sort of abstract. The idea there is if you throw the torch at something, you can do damage to it. The mechanic is you're taking the card, you're destroying it, taking it out of the game, and it gives you those bonus attack points there.
Gotcha. So it's like a one-time use ability that are on some of the items there.
Yeah, yeah. So that's that. And here's an armor. Somehow I ended up without one in my hand there.
And then leather armor, 3 cost, and then of course the one action point there that you were referring to.
Right. Yep. So it's very simple. Whenever you're playing the game, it's really just comparing the numbers. So you use your when you're coming across here, you'll need 2 travel action points to get from your first space to your second space. These little ones can be thought of like campsites. So you're traveling on your way in your quest, and you've got these little campsites.
Nice little clearing for you to hang out in.
Yeah, right. And then if nothing's here, then it's just a big campsite. But typically, something's going to be there. So we can put like the thorn vines there.
So it's not necessarily that there's going to be the big bad evil guy there that's preventing you from moving forward. It's going to be obstacles as well. So the vines like that.
Yeah, yeah. So you've got these thorn vines. There might be a monster hanging out under there. There might not be. It really is up to your opponent. And the next exciting part of this game is that the cards are all played face down. So your opponent decides to spend 2 resources on this creature and put it under there. Now you can see there's the creature icon. If that creature has equipment, you can see the equipment icon. So you know kind of what's there.
Gotcha. So
but you don't know
there
enough.
Might be a creature lurking, but you don't know what it is.
Right. And you know there's the people that are going to try really hard to pay attention. That's another fun thing about the game is you're always engaged, because if you're not watching what your opponent's doing, then you're going to get surprised. And if you get knocked back and you lose your equipment, those are kind of the consequences. So an example turn then is you decide I'm gonna go for it here. I can set up my guy here. Let's give me some equipment. I'll use flame and leather armor, and we even have, so hopefully I'm not jumping around too much. There are two different types of hero cards. This is the one that has kind of the cheat information on it.
Okay, so this has a little bit of a quick reference on here then?
Yeah, so if you want to just add up your base action points right off the bat, you can just know, like, okay, I've got 1 because I've got the traveling kit. I've got leather armor and flame, so that gives me 3 here, because he's got 1 that he automatically has.
Okay.
And then he also, being Toby, has a bonus challenge, and then flame gives me 3, so he would have 4. So this kind of gives you that, I know what I've got at the beginning of the turn, but then if I play my, effect cards, I'll let you throw a couple of those under the screen.
Sure. So then, like this one here, Endurance. If you do not have any red action tokens on your hero, you may add 1 red action token to your hero to be used on a future turn.
Yeah.
Then Dash, which is just some additional travel bonus, of course.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so in the effect cards, when they come into play, they are... You resolve them and then they go away. So that's the most traditional of a deck builder.
Right,
You've got that. You play it, the things happen, then you shuffle it into your deck and you get it back. So
So you're using the deck building aspects of the game to supplement the RPG hero that you're playing as. Then.
Right,
Gotcha.
right. Yeah, and an exciting stretch goal that's coming up, hasn't been announced yet, will be kind of a magic set. So there'll be a whole bunch of cards that are very traditional magic things, like lightning and fireball and bag of holding, which allows you to have more equipment and stuff like that. So,
Gotcha.
So yeah, back to this. We've got our equipment in play, the example action points, and so I'm going to go for it. And basically, I just add up my points. After you've played it a few times, you'll stop using the reference guide, because you'll just add it up in your head.
But still, it's a very nice touch to add it to the game for new players to kind of jump into it, and then it eliminates the need for pen and paper or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So you decide you're going to go for it, and you just basically you declare that, and then you flip everything over. So then when you get to find out what you're actually dealing with here, and we can. So the example would be,
so
we see it here.
On the back of the card. So up close and personal here, we've got the walking fungus. There's a fungus among us.
There's a fungus among us.
But flipping it over on the back side of the card, so if walking fungus is defeated, do not destroy this card. It regenerates and stays on the location it was placed on and will participate in future encounters. So it regenerates there over and over again.
Yeah, that one is the only card that does that particularly.
And then what's this 1 here for the challenge action points?
Yeah, so that is what you're actually facing.
Okay.
So to beat this location, you would have to actually come up with 1 plus 4 and then the 2 travel. So you would need a total of 7 action points.
So you have to deal with everything that's on that space.
Yeah, it's an all or nothing kind of scenario.
Gotcha.
And that is kind of the big surprise. You have the reveal. Everyone sees how many action points are there. If you're a savant and you memorized it last time you played, that's great for you. But most people don't, because there's just too many variables.
Right.
So you deal with that. And one of the things that I think that I really like about the challenges is that the way I see adventure is that there's kind of a cost involved, even with success. So I mean, The Hobbit, and the Lord of the Rings, there was great cost, even though they defeated Sauron. And so I tried to replicate that a little bit in these. So even if you have victory, there's this little tan box here that says you have this consequence that you have to deal with now. So your equipment, in this example, gets tangled up in the thorned vines, and you either have to discard something or you take a -2 travel token because you took the extra time to make sure you didn't lose it. So that's kind of the RPG flavor I want to add to it. Those are in that sort of tan box there because they are optional. If you want to play a faster game, you can kind of skip that, and it allows you to get through all the challenges a little quicker.
Gotcha.
You still have the same amount of surprise and fun, but it tones down the unforgivingness of the game a little bit.
So during the deck builder aspects of this game, how are we purchasing these cards? Is it solely through the bottle caps then?
Right. So your opening deck consists of 8 bottle caps, a traveling kit, and a wooden knife, which I think somehow I just shoveled over into here. Yeah, I got a couple things shuffled into here. There it is.
Okay.
So I have 8 bottle caps, and then so on your first and second turn, you will likely get your first set of equipment out, which is going to be the traveling kit, the wooden knife, and then you'll use the bottle caps to acquire those
More
cards.
stuff.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And so for our equipment, that stays in play, or does that get cycled out every time we play that from our
Sure.
hand deck builder style? Or?
Yeah. So when you play the weapons from your hand or any of that equipment from your hand, so you purchase it, it goes in your discard deck builder. Not a surprise. But when it comes back up, when you play it on your hero, it stays out for as long as you choose for it to stay out, or if some effect in game causes you to discard it.
Okay.
So if you do have, the wooden knife, but you've purchased flame, and then it comes into your hand deck building style, basically all you do is you pick this up and put it down. So now this is in your hand, right? So you can use that. Typically what you're going to do is you're going to put it out on the board underneath a creature so that creature now has equipment too, and which just makes that more powerful.
Oh, you can equip creatures with the same stuff that you're building your own characters
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. There are in the locations, there's a little number in the corner right here. Now it's probably, it didn't green screen. And that's the capacity of that location. So some locations they're cheaper and they can only have like a creature and one other card. Some of them can have a creature and 3 pieces of equipment
So
to
there's
make
a
them
limit
huge.
there to make sure that it's not you don't make it impossible for people to get through.
Right. Yeah. It kind of self builds as far as the challenge level goes, but you still can get stuck early on if somebody just decides to play a wallop on you.
Gotcha. So tell me a little bit about what your favorite aspect of this game is. What really makes it pop off the table, in your opinion?
I got to say 2 things, I guess. For me,
I'll forgive you.
being a lover of the comic book style illustration, this board, it was one of the last things I added to the design of the game, where before it was a little bit more of a graphic heavy and less illustrated. But now that it's this, I'm just so glad I did it. It just feels like you're going on this exploring kind of this forest area.
And it definitely gives me the comic booky vibe to it, based off of the art style and how everything's laid out on it as well.
Cool. I appreciate that. But as far as mechanics go, it's definitely the challenge stacks. That's what I call them in the rule book, the challenge stack, because they're face down, but you get the tease. You're like, okay, I know that there's a weapon under that creature, and oh shoot, I was just focused on buying this sword, and I noticed that now the tree golem isn't in the challenge row anymore. So if somebody bought the tree golem, where did they put it? So then you're looking for that icon that's the green, creature icon. And, so there's this, it's just such a fun sort of tense mystery thing that just happens throughout the game. And then when you do finally flip it over and you've got somebody like the challenge or like the tree golem who is immune to thorn equipment, and you come at it with great thorn, and you thought you were good, and then you just get walloped, and you get knocked back spaces, and you lose all your equipment, and everybody points and laughs. Which, he is really green screen, but that's okay. He's our...
Everyone points and laughs. You need a more forgiving game group there.
Yeah, well, maybe I do, but we have a lot of fun with it because it's just we get really competitive in that fun sort of haha gotcha kind of sense. So it's got a little bit of Munchkin in it. It's got a little bit of Clank in it, but it's really a completely unique experience for deck building and for this kind of build your own adventure style game.
So speaking of game groups, how many players does this game support?
The base game supports up to 4. There is a 6-player expansion, which actually adds a board on the back end here that connects, so you can see these 2 paths here. So you can play with up to 6 if you have the expansion, which the expansion also includes more cards, just because you literally need more cards for that many players.
Gotcha.
And but yeah, even our first stretch goal was actually to unlock the solo mode deck. So it's another deck of cards that you shuffle in there that simulate actions out here that would be done by other players.
So
you
it gives
can
the game an AI aspect to it, so you can play solo then.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that's that's how it plays.
Fantastic. So currently live on Kickstarter. We got about a little more than 3 weeks left.
Yeah,
to
just a
look
little
at
bit
it.
more than 3 weeks.
Is there anything that we didn't get a chance to touch on that you wanted to make sure that we talked about regarding this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I'm just really excited to get to share this game, and it's been a real passion project for me, for my family. They've all been involved, particularly my son, as I mentioned, and I'm overwhelmed and I'm thankful already by the support I've gotten on Kickstarter, and by my friends and my new friends that I keep making here at Gen Con and in the gaming community. So, thank you.
Fantastic. Dobbers Quest with a Key looks really awesome. And I got to ask you, is there anything else coming through the pipeline that maybe I can get some information out of you on?
So probably the secret that's been leaked the most is there is a Dobbers Quest for the Key D&D module being written.
Ooh.
So we've been playing D&D on Exploding Dice in this world now for 6 or 7 months, and it's been a real blast to do that too. So even those characters are here in various stages as they've been developed and kind of worked into the world.
Expanding the world into all these different mediums. So you went from comic book to board game to then tabletop role playing. What's next?
What's next? Well, I want to get back to the comic book. Hopefully that'll happen again. And the big picture for the board game is that there will be expansions that drive the story a little bit. So almost like each chapter of the story kind of gets represented in a new game. So we'll see how that goes. There's a lot yet to happen on the Kickstarter. So we'll see how that influences what's coming next.
Fantastic. Daryl, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Really do
It's been a
appreciate
pleasure.
it. And thank all of you for watching at home. Stay tuned for more board game coverage throughout the week here at Gen Con 2018. Signing off for now, though, I'm Matt. Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you.